Dawn breaks cold over a stone labyrinth in eastern France, September 1944, and a white flag envoy steps back through American lines with one sentence to deliver, "You'll have to kill me." The German major inside a fortress on a road junction has thrown down a line in the sand, and every gun crew can feel it. Here's what Patton did after that line got drawn, and how the fortress stopped existing as a fighting position before the day grew old. If you want the real edge of command decisions and outcomes that rewired battlefields, subscribe now and stay to the end. Third Army had pushed fast across eastern France and then slowed, fuel thinning and bridges becoming more precious than metals. The roads mattered more than maps, and every junction was a valve on momentum. Cutting around this enemy strongpoint risked more than a detour. It put supply lines within reach of counterattack and invited artillery onto the highways feeding the front. The position was old-world stone hardwired into modern firepower, with a dry moat, interlocking machine gun nests, and wiring buried under years of concrete patches. Inside, roughly 1,500 defenders were drilled to hold and punish. Standard terms went in under a white flag: surrender, Geneva protections, a prison camp instead of a grave. The answer came back clear enough to plan a timetable on. Patton's staff treated the refusal like a signed order. There would be no bypass and no second window for speeches, only a rapid, suffocating operation designed to break the position and keep American casualties low. Encirclement came first. Roads north and south were sealed by infantry and tanks, with outposts screening hedgerows and bridges to net runners and prevent reinforcement. A fire plan was layered to the minute, built from aerial photos and ground sketches, and checked by forward observers who had marked embrasures and antenna clusters from night positions. Every gun position on the perimeter had a number, and every number had an assigned ammunition type. Field artillery battalions rolled forward and dug in behind hedges and walls. Crews registered on corners, coping stones, loopholes, and stairwells, using short bursts to verify dispersion and drift. Sound-ranging teams triangulated the fortress guns that might answer back. By launching test rounds at prearranged times, they mapped the echo of German batteries and fed coordinates to counter-battery sections. Air support slotted into the plan as a second wave, not a separate show. Fighter bombers were tasked with suppressing the command area and smashing ammunition stacks, using fuses set to punch through roofs before bursting. Communications discipline made the timing brutal. Radio nets were split into fires, air, engineers, and maneuver, with code words to trigger shifts in the barrage and lock air corridors clear for bomb runs. Psychological pressure ran alongside steel. Loudspeaker teams edged as close as cover allowed and announced the time of the bombardment, the direction of the assault, and the open path for anyone who chose life. Leaflets followed the voice, telling defenders how to approach American lines and what to do with weapons and hands. They repeated the Geneva protections, again and again. The legal groundwork mattered. Patton's order was simple. We offered them safety. They refused in plain language. Now we end it fast. Engineers prepared their own playbook. Bangalore torpedoes were stacked and taped. Satchel charges were cut to different weights, and flamethrower teams rehearsed magazine changes and nozzle handoffs behind a burned-out farmhouse. Tanks were assigned to specific angles of fire, with dozer blade Shermans ready to push rubble into ramps. Assault guns with 105s would pound at close range to peel back masonry around gun slits. Mortar crews calculated smoke screens to blind the longest arcs of fire. When infantry moved, they would move in bands the enemy could not see, then step into sudden clarity right on the walls. Medical stations set up just out of range, stocked for crush injuries and burns, not mass rifle wounds. Expectation shaped readiness, and the plan aimed to keep it that way. Ammunition trucks staggered arrivals so everything did not choke on a single road. Drivers learned alternate routes through orchards to avoid predictable lines of sight. Observation was redundant by design. If the ridge camera lost view to smoke, the church attic still had it. If the attic caught a shell, a hedgerow spotter could see the left wall's shadow line. Counter-mortar work sat in reserve. Once enemy tubes fired, radar had no voice here, but ears and eyes could still map arcs and drop a curtain of HE back over them within minutes. Time-on-target shots were woven through the plan, rounds calculated so shell bursts landed together from guns at different distances. The first seconds would count most. By the time guards checked watches for the 100th time, everything was ready except the weather and the enemy's choice to cave. One of those changed. First light snaps across the courtyard, and the fortress shakes like a struck bell. Time-on-target shells arrive in one clenched instant, slapping stone, tearing parapets, and turning the first gun embrasures into choking mouths of dust. American radios crackle as forward observers call corrections by the width of a brick. A second wave walks the blasts inward, and every pause is a trap for a surviving gun to expose itself. A German battery barks. Counter-battery teams answer within moments, plotting the flash and punching back, and then that voice is gone under percussion and fragments. Loudspeakers speak again through the smoke, shorter now and harder. The path to surrender is on the south breach. Hands high, no weapons, move. Air controllers mark the target grid and clear the sky. Fighter bombers roar in low, rockets streak into roofs, and then delayed fuses bite through stone and burst inside where command voices used to live. Secondary blasts tumble out of the main building and lift slates into the air. For a few seconds, the courtyard moves like fog in a bellows. Infantry teams edge forward under smoke. Riflemen focus on corners, not open ground, and every doorway gets a grenade before a boot. A machine gun on the west bastion spits a stubborn line across the moat. A Sherman angles in, trades 2 near hits, and answers with a short-range Schuach round that punches the slot and cuts the stream off mid-breath. Engineers move like stagehands behind canvas, sliding Bangalores into the fencing and ripping channels through wire that looked permanent yesterday. Flames lick from a half-seen loophole, and a flamethrower team hoses the dark until metal glows and screaming stops. Another team hauls a satchel charge to a crack yawning along the main wall. They set the fuse at arm's length, duck around a broken pillar, and the world bucks as a doorway appears where history used to be. The first prisoners stumble through the smoke with their helmets in hands they keep high. An American sergeant shouts for them to move faster and points them down a lane that bends behind a barn and into a holding line. One group tries to sprint along the moat wall. A mortar section drops a few adjusting shells that shave the wall with fragments, and, when the sprinting stops, voice the surrender path again. Inside the breach, the light is wrong. Dust and smoke make a false night, and rifles flash in rooms that are now 2 rooms, ceilings bent, and stairs choking on plaster. A runner brings up a flamethrower team to clear a stubborn turn in a corridor. The nozzle sweeps the mouth of it, and the air whoofs in heat. After, riflemen move with boots crunching burned timber and spent casings. Tanks drive rubble like snowplows. A dozer blade pushes a slumped section of wall into a ramp that bridges the moat. And then more infantry start climbing what used to be the enemy's advantage. The air smells like plaster, cordite, and diesel. In that mix, timing stays clean, and every squad leader reads the clock on a different wrist, but hits the same minute. A hidden 20mm gun tries to make a last stand from a shadowed port. An assault gun kills the port with 3 quick shells and flattens the room behind it until the ceiling caves. Radio nets tighten. One channel holds fire to let aircraft roll in again. Another pushes smoke forward to blind a stubborn tower and unmask a corridor. On the far side, a small white cloth waves from a smashed parapet. A corporal climbs into view and freezes as a rifle cracks from somewhere invisible. The next second, a tank answers by blowing out the hidden corner, and the white cloth reappears with shaking hands attached. The main building has lost its face. Windows hang empty, the roof buckles, and the squat shape of the command bunker beneath it looks like the last idea left. Engineers bring demolition charges to the bunker's side door and find it blocked by furniture, sandbags, anything that could slide and jam. The knob doesn't rattle. The hinges sink into stone. They shift to a vent, and a second entrance they noticed at dawn. A weight of explosives meets the lock, and the door jumps on its hinges, then holds like a truth someone refuses to acknowledge. A task force leader orders a direct fire solution. An assault gun backs into position with inches to spare. The barrel kisses the frame, and a single shell rips the door into a stump and throws smoke down a corridor that never saw daylight. Inside, shots snap and ricochet off the walls. An American squad goes low and right, another sweeps left, and the hallway gets measured in feet and decisions. The German major shows himself in the last room with 2 men still willing to stand. A burst from the doorway clips plaster from the wall, then a single rifle round ends the sentence the white flag refused to finish. Silence arrives like a drawn breath. Small arms chatter tapers off across the complex as word spreads that the bunker fell and the head is cut. Someone yells for more medics. Someone else curses at a burning ammunition crate. Somewhere a prisoner explains in a shaking voice where another firing port was supposed to be. Orders roll down to clear the remaining rooms with care and speed. Doors come open to hands raised, and rifles point down while men walk past eyes that look hollowed out by dust and noise. By late morning, the outer bastions are firm in American hands. The road behind the fortress ripples with trucks and stretcher jeeps, and above them the loudspeakers fall quiet at last. Mop-up takes the rest of the day's heat. Every magazine gets counted, every room gets chalk, and every hole in the wall earns a story spoken at low volume. It ends the way these things always do, if done right. The white flag rote fills with men who want to see tomorrow, and the junction opens as a corridor towards the next fight. Prisoners were collected, searched, and marched to improvised cages behind the lines, while engineers blew remaining booby traps and medics ferried wounded from both sides. Records vary on the exact prisoner count. Debriefs followed quickly, with captured maps, code sheets, and radio crystals laid out on a table that hours before had supported a field phone. The German major's identity was confirmed by papers recovered in his bunker. The road junction reopened, and the column that had been stacking behind it began to move, giving Third Army the tempo it needed. A prolonged siege had been turned into a rout in a single day. In the days that followed, word of the fortress's swift reduction moved ahead of American patrols. Refusal started to look less like defiance and more like a death wish to isolated garrisons. Doctrine tightened after the smoke cleared. Loudspeaker protocols, leaflet patterns, time-on-target drills, and breach team checklists were adopted as a combined package for similar positions down the road. Forced clarity saved time and lives. A commander could offer one fair door and then design the fight so that every other doorway led to collapse. For more hard-edged battlefield decisions told without fluff, subscribe and join us on the next one.